This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 41, How to Sell Your Boss on Content Marketing. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you attract and retain business through the power of quality content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is October 17th, 2013. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for episode 41 of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, we are live on iTunes and on Stitcher, so if you're listening to this episode on the blog, you can click on over and subscribe. That means you'll get new episodes automatically delivered to your computer or your smartphone or your listening device of choice. And if you use another app for your podcast listening pleasure, we also have an RSS feed, and I will provide that link in the blog post. First, I want to highlight a huge milestone for this podcast. We have just topped 10,000 downloads, and I am absolutely in awe. I want to send out a big thank you to everyone who helped us get there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back week after week. Thank you for recommending us to your friends and colleagues, and we will do our best to keep the good stuff coming. I also want to give a shout out to a listener named Christopher Hensley. He is the host of the Money Matters radio show right here in Houston on KPFT. Chris sent me a very nice invitation to connect on LinkedIn, and it turns out he is a listener of this podcast. So, Chris, thanks for listening. We're happy to have you. And by the way, Chris's show, Money Matters, is also available as a podcast on iTunes and on Stitcher, and I will provide those links in the blog post. He does a great show, and I highly recommend giving it a listen. Okay, on to this week's business. Last week, we addressed a question that I often hear from fellow content marketers, and that is, does this all have to be online? Is there no room for offline vehicles in content marketing? And if you happen to miss that episode, feel free to click on over to iTunes or to Stitcher or to the RSS feed and get all caught up. So that brings me to today's topic. Today, I want to tackle the question of how to sell your boss on adding content marketing to your overall strategy. Today's episode is a response to a question I get fairly often from people who work in larger organizations, in marketing departments of corporations and larger businesses. A lot of these folks come up to me after speaking engagements for marketing organizations, and they'll say something like, Rachel, I believe in content marketing. I know it works, but my organization is just not on board. They either don't know about it, or they don't believe in it, or they see it as kind of a nice to have. They say, oh, that's fine for, Nike or businesses who have tons of money to throw around. But we're serious marketers here. And that's a fairly common situation. So today I wanted to share a few tips with you. First, I want to talk about a few tips in general for presenting ideas to the boss, which in my years of corporate America, I've had to do many, many times. And also some pointers that will help you specifically sell the idea of content marketing. So the first point I want to make is that you really need to put together a case. So just imagine that you're an attorney putting together a case for court. If you've ever seen a good lawyer in action, they cover every possible angle of making their case, and they present an argument that's just so compelling and so comprehensive that siding with them seems like a no-brainer. So that's how you need to see your mission, as convincing your boss that by the time you are done with him, thank you, Hermione, by the time you are done, it's just a no-brainer. It's absolutely essential that you get started yesterday. And another thing to keep in mind is that you are asking your boss and your organization really to make a change. And something that I've learned in sales training and also in general business is that people only really change when the pain of staying where they are becomes greater than the pain of making the change. So, and that's true in life as well. You decide to make a change when you just can't stand being stuck where you are anymore. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you are presenting this venture into content marketing not as something that, it's going to be great. It's going to be your clients are going to enjoy your content, that kind of thing. But really, you have to do this. The future of the organization depends upon it. So we need to make it clear that no matter how difficult, how challenging it may be to start and maintain a content marketing program, all that is nothing in compared to the hurt you'll be feeling down the line if you don't. So, and we're going to be talking more about how to phrase that here in a bit. So the first thing I want to do is talk about 3 things to think about as you frame your argument. These are going to kind of guide the framework for putting your case together. Number 1, I want you to really think about your company's current challenges. What are the issues that come up in your latest town hall? Or what are the issues that come up in your CEO's State of the Company address or in those emails that you get from the C-suite? Is it, are we having a problem with losing customers? Are the sales flat? Is there a certain competitor that's all of a sudden eating your lunch? Really think about what those challenges are and how content marketing can fit into solving those problems. And you may have to ask around. Not every organization is as upfront as they could be about the challenges that they face with their employees. So you may have to ask around, find out what's keeping your CEO up at night. What is going on that is really causing some sleepless nights among the C-suite? And then what you're going to do is frame your argument in terms of responding to those challenges, instead of saying, this is something that's just nice to have. Number 2, think about your boss. Think about your boss's personality. Think about how he or she prefers to receive content. Are they more of a give me the bottom line person, or do they want to see more detail? Are they very data oriented? Are they more touchy-feely? What's important to him or her? And it's not always about the numbers. And one thing that I've learned is there's a personality profile system out there called DISC. It's DISC, and it's kind of a personality categorization system. And there's a whole questionnaire, and you figure out where you are and where you plot on the graph. But basically, it's a really useful tool because most people fit more or less into one of those 4 categories. I know the D's are very, they're very dominant. They're kind of the CEO types. They're, give me the bottom line. Don't bother me with details. And, on the other hand, the C's, and I can't remember what C stands for, but the C's are the engineer type. So they want to know every little detail. They want to get every question answered before they're comfortable moving forward. So you might want to do a little research on DISC and really kind of figure out where your boss fits in to that system. And that will help you frame your argument. Do you want to present a lot of detail? Do you want to just really give an overview or the bottom line? Do you want to talk about connection or relationships, things like that? So really, really think about your boss's values, what's important to him or her, and what's really going to resonate with him or her when you give your presentation. And the third thing I want you to think about as you frame your argument is to think about your boss's boss. Just think that consider that unless you report directly to your CEO, if your boss says, yeah, this sounds great, I'm on board, then he or she is going to have to present it to his or her direct report, whoever he or she reports to. So really consider how this is going to make your boss look good to his or her boss. Think about if your boss is the director of marketing, think about the VP of marketing and what's important to him or her, because that's going to help your argument get through that next step in working its way up the chain. So 3 things to really think about to tailor your presentation to your boss, to your boss's boss, and to the organization as a whole. Another point that I want to make is really push to make a presentation in person. Sometimes when we present ideas to the boss, they'll say, oh, okay, put together a report and email it to me. And that's really not, in my personal experience in corporate America. I put together the report, I email it to her, check a couple of days later, hey, did you get my report? Oh yeah, I haven't gotten around to it yet. And you start in this endless loop of, oh, I'll get to it next week, and then next week something comes up. And not to disparage the boss in any way, it's just that email sitting in an inbox is not, it's not urgent. It has no urgency to it. So it tends to keep getting buried under these fire drills that they keep presenting themselves. So I would say really push for at least a 30-minute meeting with your boss where you can go over your argument and plus, the boss can really see your passion and your commitment to content marketing and how you've done your research and how you really feel that this is the way to go. So really push to get that presentation in person. Another thing you might want to do is talk to some other departments. Content marketing is not solely a benefit to the marketing department. It's also a very vital recruiting tool. So you might want to talk to HR about some of their recruiting challenges. Maybe they're having a tough time reaching recent college grads who need to see much more than a job description to make a decision to apply for that organization. Or, maybe it's retention. Maybe people aren't feeling connected to the organization. Another department you want to talk to is customer service, because with content marketing, a lot of what we do is answer questions. So if you can answer a customer's question and prevent them from having to call the call center, which can be very expensive on the part of the organization, that would benefit that department as well. So see if you can find points to partner up with other departments, and that would make your argument a much richer presentation, especially when it gets higher up in the organization. The CEO eventually, if the CEO is going to make that decision, he or she will be able to say, oh, this would benefit marketing, this would help us recruit new people, this would help lower our customer service costs, and it would really present it as a more comprehensive solution. So see about talking to people in other departments and seeing where you can partner up on presenting content marketing. So the next thing you want to do is get your data lined up. And you really want to have some numbers in line and some charts and some something that really shows why content marketing is not just a nice to have. And for example, sometimes when I do speaking engagements, I present a chart showing the results of a Nielsen poll where they asked people, how much do you trust certain types of marketing? And it shows just how little trust people have in things like advertisements on TV, advertisements on radio, advertisements in newspaper, celebrity endorsements, that kind of thing. And in fact, sometimes when I get through my presentation and get on to the Q&A portion, people ask me to page back to that chart so they can look at it more closely, because it really is, it does tell a compelling story about how people feel about traditional advertising. Another source of good data is a blog post that HubSpot put out a few months ago. It was called 10 Horrifying Stats About Display Advertising. And that's where they go into things like you're more likely to complete Navy SEAL training or to give birth to twins than you are to click on a banner ad. So start gathering some of that data. Even if you yourself are not a numbers person, that data is really going to help you tell the story of why content marketing is, again, not just a nice to have. It's really a vital part of a marketing strategy that is going to determine your success in the future. And speaking of success, remember to include 1 or 2 success stories. And these can't just be any success stories. You need to find those case studies either from your industry or from a complementary industry, an industry that serves a similar client base. So, for example, if your company is a diehard B2B company, say you're selling industrial equipment, well, you don't want to go in there with a case study from Nike or Starbucks or Coca-Cola, because your boss is going to look at you and say, yeah, that's great. So what? We don't sell to consumers. We sell to industries. So in that case, you're going to want to look at companies like Caterpillar or companies like IBM or those more business-to-business providers to really show that connection, because you really want to hunt around for those success stories from businesses that serve a similar target audience, and that could take some digging. So you're going to want to set yourself plenty of time for research and for finding those case studies. Another thing you're going to want to do is check out your competitors. I know for a lot of executives, nothing makes them perk up like hearing, oh, yeah, our number one competitor has been blogging for 2 years now, and they are they are eating our lunch in terms of market share. I wonder if that's a coincidence. And so if you have any competitors out there, especially the ones that are causing some sleepless nights for the CEO and the other C-suite executives, make sure to talk about that in your presentation, because that can be a very compelling part of your argument. You also want to remember to talk about the SEO angle. That is one of the few solid measurables that you can hang your hat on when you talk about content marketing. Make sure to talk about the changes that Google has put forth lately. The Penguin update, the Panda update, now we have the Hummingbird update. And all those updates, what they mean for marketers is that the number one way to get in good with the Google gods is to produce quality content on a regular basis that speaks to your customers' needs. And a lot of those old-fashioned SEO practices, the link buying and the kind of shady practices, they just don't work anymore, and they can even cause you detriment in terms of your rank on Google. So remember to include that SEO angle, because chances are that when your boss talks to his or her boss, the issue of search performance and web traffic is going to come up. So make sure you include that SEO angle for content marketing. Also remember the lead generation angle. For a lot of organizations, a lot of larger organizations, the mission of the marketing department is to get leads that they can pass on to the sales team. So remind your manager that every time someone signs up for your e-newsletter, someone subscribes to your blog, someone downloads your ebook, that person becomes a lead and they become part of your database that your sales team can then follow up on. So yeah, lead generation is a definitely important term that you want to make sure and bring up. You also want to be ready for questions. And 2 questions I know for sure you're going to have to deal with are, number 1, how much is this going to cost me? And number 2, how long is it going to take to see the results? So the first question, how much is this going to cost? You want to have some numbers ready. So really think about what it would cost to either build an in-house team to do your content or to outsource it to an agency, and really present those alternatives, put some solid numbers together. Here's what it would cost for us to hire a full-time writer. Here's what it would cost for us to have video capabilities. Here's what it would cost to outsource all those various features, and really put some numbers together so that you're not just kind of for one thing, it makes you look serious about the case that you're presenting. And for another, it makes it easier, again, for your boss to sell this concept up the line. If you have some numbers saying, okay, this is how much it's going to cost us. Which brings us to the second question you will be sure to be asked, which is, how long will it take to see results? And this is a question I get all the time from clients. And the way that I handle it, as I say, look, I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to take at least 6 months for you to start gaining momentum. So, and the question that I put to them is, 6 months from now, would you rather start seeing some momentum from the content marketing program that you put in place today, or would you rather be wishing you had started 6 months ago? And there's a quote that I love that really ties into this, and I think it's an ancient proverb from somewhere with smart people. It goes like this: the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. So, I would be very upfront that this benefit of content marketing, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It is a marathon and not a sprint. But, even marathons start with a first step. So, either we can get started today, or we could be looking back 2 years from now wishing we had started today. And the final thing that I would advise you to do is please don't give up. So if you go through your presentation, you make a perfect case to your boss, and he or she still doesn't buy it, keep bringing it up. Keep mentioning it in meetings. Next time you come across some great data that really makes the case for content marketing, print it out and put it on the boss's chair, or physically bring it over to his or her desk while they're there and say, hey, by the way, we talked about content marketing. Here's some more data that's showing that this is the way to go. So don't give up. If you are passionate about it, if you are sure that it's right for your organization, if you're sure that it's the key to your organization's future success, please don't give up. And just remember, and this is just my perspective. This is just IMHO, in my humble opinion. Remember 10 years ago, a lot of businesses were saying, why should we have a website? We don't sell stuff online. We're a consulting firm. Why would we have a website? That would be ridiculous. Well, nowadays, no one would think about being a serious business without a website. Again, look at 5 or 6 years ago. A lot of businesses were saying, well, why should we bother with search engine optimization? We don't care if people find us in search. We don't care about people Googling and then coming up in their search results. We're a serious business. We don't care about that. Well, fast forward to today, and everybody's got an SEO program. Everybody worth their salt, that is. And again, 3 years ago, a lot of people were saying, oh, social media, God, that's people tweeting what they're having for lunch. Why the heck would we put any time or money into that? And now, social media is becoming an important part of every major businesses marketing program. And I believe that 5 years ago, or probably a lot less, a lot of us will be looking back and saying, wow, remember when a lot of people thought content marketing was a big waste of time, and now we wouldn't even think of being without it. So that's my advice to you. Don't give up, because, as you and I know, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably on board and believe that content marketing is the way to go. It's the way of the future. It's where companies are going to find their success. It's how they're going to see their existence years from now. So if you're having a hard time, please don't give up. Please keep plugging, keep pushing it, and hopefully eventually you'll start to see some movement. So those are just a few ideas that I have for you if you have made it your mission to get your boss and eventually your entire company on board with content marketing. I really hope it helps. If you have any specific questions, anything that I can help you with for your specific situation, please do let me know, and I will give that contact information at the end of the podcast. Also, please keep me posted. If you're trying to get your organization on board with content marketing, let me know how it goes. I really, really want to hear from you. I want to hear how things are going. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. For today's tip, I want to talk about repurposing your content. Content creation is a huge job, especially if we are trying to create new content from scratch every time we sit down to that drawing board. And one remedy for that is something called repurposing. And all that is taking existing content and packaging it a little bit differently so that you appeal to your audience in a different way. One thing you can do is take small bits of content and turn them into something larger. So, for example, if you have put together a 10-post blog series on a specific topic, you can roll those blog posts into an ebook and present that for download. Another thing you can do is take a large piece of content and turn it into smaller bits. So let's say you have written an ebook, and you can go through that ebook and pull out maybe some retweetable snippets that you can then share on Twitter and encourage people to share on Twitter. Another thing you can do is switch formats. So again, going back to that ebook you've written, that might work really well as a webinar series, or it might work well as a podcast series, or you might turn a podcast episode into a SlideShare presentation, adding a visual element to that. So there are all kinds of opportunities to take that existing content and give it a fresh start. And, this isn't cheating, because I'm not talking about straight copy paste. It does need to be customized to whatever new format you're putting it into. And just remember, everyone has their own preferences in how they like to take in content. Some of us prefer little snippets. Some of us prefer larger chunks. Some people like video. Some people prefer text. And by repurposing, you can take that valuable information and share it in different formats to appeal to different sectors of your audience. So be creative, be open-minded, and give yourself a break from having to start from scratch every single time by repurposing your content. Okay, campers, that is it for me this week. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. I've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. If you like what you've heard today, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. I would so appreciate it. For more information about content marketing, you're welcome to visit our blog at resonancecontent.com/blog, where you'll also find links to our pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other social networks. If you'd like to email me a question to cover in an upcoming tip of the week, you can contact me anytime at rachel@resonancecontent.com. And if you'd like for me to come speak about content marketing to your business or your organization, you can find information about my most current talk at contentmarketingspeaker.net. As always, I like to leave you with a quote, and today's is from Oprah Winfrey. She says, the essential question is not how busy are you, but what are you busy at? That's something to think about. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing, and we will see you again next week. Take care.